In today's episode, we're going to talk about how to not suck at marketing. And don't take our word for it. The guy who actually wrote the book is going to tell you. All that and more today on the Marketing Madmen podcast.
They say marketing is a madman's game. So now we turn it over to the Marketing Madmen with Nick Constantino and Trip Job.
Happy Saturday. Welcome to the Marketing Madmen. Trip Job and Nick Constantino here at the Battery. And, we're excited.
We're just pushing the envelope, Trip.
We had about a month or so ago, we had good friend Joanne Harold from Harold Growth Consulting with us. And it's kind of spawned another series. And so we're going to do kind of a marketing forum. I have Joanne hopefully about once a month. And Joanne is so well connected and has so many thoughts from her career. And so, Joanne, welcome back.
Oh, it's great to be here, Trip and Nick.
Yeah, no, I think we're, like I said, this is going to be fun, and I know you've got fantastic guests today and a lineup that I think
topical, right? We want to cover topics that are relevant at that moment and really help people and get insights from across the board and different insights. It's not just Trip and I up here, waxing poetic. It's across the board, different people talking about different things because it's always a different set of perspectives that help. So with that said, Joanne, why don't you take a lead now and introduce our first guest and the Marketing Madmen Forum?
Well, what I'm going to do, I'm going to ask Mr. Jeff Perkins to introduce himself and tell us how we first met, and then you'll learn a little bit more about Jeff.
Thanks, guys. It's great to be here with you. I like anything Mad Men, so this is fun. I actually, introducing myself, I come out of the advertising business. So not quite in the Mad Men era, but a little after that in sort of the 90s. So my first job out of college was at an agency called Saatchi & Saatchi, so one of the big global, very famous agency, and I worked on Tide laundry detergent and Cascade dishwashing detergent. So those are my two brands. Yeah. So I worked on those brands while living in a 300 square foot apartment in New York City without a washer dryer.
That's the dream, man. That's the New York City dream, man.
So I was very...
And that same apartment's going for $4,500 a month now.
At least. So came out of the advertising business and then pivoted from the agency side to the client side, moved down to Atlanta in 2007 and worked at Auto Trader. So I was there for 5 years at a really fun time. Auto Trader is one of those great Atlanta growth stories where, I joined, they were already successful. They were about a $400 million company when I joined. And during my 5 years there, it grew to $1 billion. Yeah. And so really amazing.
So do you know
ride.
Don Dixon? Because previously, because he has that same story. He was Saatchi & Saatchi and then went over to Auto Trader. That is hysterical.
Unfortunately, I do know Don Dixon.
Yeah, I was going to say. Okay. I can tell by that face.
Don is amazing. I love Don. He was kind of one of my mentors over there at Auto Trader, and we had a great run. But then, after Auto Trader, I bounced around in executive jobs. I worked at a company here called PGI, which was one of the OGs in Atlanta tech. It's no longer, unfortunately. I think they kind of shut their doors or, kind of transitioned to a new brand earlier this year. But had a great run there. Then went and worked at a startup here called QA Symphony. And then I landed at this company called Park Mobile, which a lot of people know. Park Mobile is the app where you pay for parking on your phone. Started there in 2015, I think, and we had about 8 million users of the app. And over time, I was there. I left, last year, end of last year. We had about 45 million users of the app available in almost every major city. And so it was a great run there at Park Mobile, where I was the CMO. Then I was the CMO plus head of product, and then I eventually became the CEO of that business and left shortly after an acquisition. So it was a really fun ride there. My company now is called Greenlight Guru. It is a software company, more of a early mid-stage, but we service the medical device industry. So very exciting, very fast growth company that I jumped in about 6 months ago.
Yeah. So Joanne teased there might be an interesting story of how you two met.
Yeah.
So,
yes.
I think you left that out.
Yes. So Joanne, I met Joanne at an award ceremony. It's called the Max Awards. It's the Georgia Marketing Roundtable's annual awards. And one of my strategies as a marketer, because I'm very cheap, and I was like, how do I get free advertising? And so one of the ways to get free advertising is to apply for a lot of awards. So that's a core strategy. So whatever Business Chronicle awards are out
Sounds
there.
like you come from the PR world.
Whatever AMA awards, Best Place to Work awards, I would apply for them all. And I never win, but I just apply because sometimes you get on the list and it's good exposure for your brand, helps you kind of get awareness, helps you recruit. And so the Max Award application comes in, and of course I apply. And I show up at the Max Award, and I'm sitting there in the crowd, and I was like, all right, here's another one that we're not going to win, but we get a plaque or something. And, it's like a who's who in Atlanta marketing. It's the Hawks, and it's MailChimp. And I'm just like, well, we're definitely not going to win this award. And they start to list off all of the winners. And they didn't call our name. And then they got to kind of the top 3. I was like, oh, man, they totally forgot to call us. This is a bummer because I knew we weren't in the top 3. And my friend that I was there with, he's like, no, man, it's because we're in the top 3. We have a chance. And I think it was us and the Hawks and MailChimp were the top 3 final ones left. I was like, well, we're definitely, at least we'll come in 3rd. That's pretty cool. And like when I say we never win, I always tell people like the Susan Lucci of the Atlanta Marketing Awards circuit, always a nominee, never a winner. And they number 3, the Hawks, number 2, MailChimp. I was like, did we just win? Is that even possible? I mean, I had nothing prepared. I didn't write a speech. And I go up, and I think Joanne handed me the award, and it's this like massive trophy. Yeah. And I just I was like, I don't know what to say, but it was a really special moment for us. At Park Mobile, we didn't have big marketing budgets, but we worked really hard to make kind of our small marketing spend go a long way and do a lot of really innovative stuff in the industry. So I was really proud we won that award. That I think was the first time we met, and we've been friends ever since.
Exactly. I thought it was so fun. You were so humble. And I remember they being on the judging committee for the Max Awards, and Park Mobile really solved a need that Atlanta had. I mean, you go and park, and they tow your car.
Right.
Yeah, your car would be towed, so it truly was very innovative. What you all did in your speech, you were so humble and authentic and smart. We all kind of said, we've got to get to know him. So
there you go.
Did you, I got to ask though, he didn't have, cue cards or whatever. Did you have to like tug at him to get him off the stage and out of the mic?
She probably did. Yeah, she probably did.
Oscars just pulled them off.
I was enjoying. They didn't do the playoff music, but they probably should have. I went on because I didn't have a speech prepared, so I just probably rambled for at least 10 minutes.
I think parking is one of those fascinating things. I've always been told is the supply demand. It's the most wacky supply and demand curve, especially in a city like New York. You see people riding around the block 20 times to find spots, and it's like just charge more for the spots to allow people to park so you can actually have a system there. Yeah. So I've always been told it is literally one of the wackiest. The price should be so much higher than it is, but then you're stifling the economy of the place. So it's really, we do a lot of work with some of the parking companies in Atlanta because we do a lot of tailgates and events in the lots downtown, and just getting to know those guys. I mean, it is crazy. And then who owns the lots is always wacky. Like here, there are these families that they just look at it as it's it's an annuity. Right. It's just you own the lot. Why would you ever sell it? It just keeps getting money, and the price of it keeps going up because there's more demand on downtown as they build out the Gulch and everything. So it's fascinating. I am curious. So you said you're cheap. You said you like free PR, and you say you stretch your marketing dollars. Is that going to be a theme as we talk later through some of this stuff and your marketing advice for people?
It will be a theme, and it's ironic though because I came out of big ad agency, and the classic story is we would go to a client and we'd say, the answer is a 30-second television ad. Now tell us what your problem is. Yeah. Right? We were a one-trick pony. We spent $100 million a year probably on advertising Tide laundry detergent at the time. I mean, just huge marketing budgets. And now I'm Mr. Cheap and Scrappy, which is kind of ironic. But when I went to a startup company, and I went to the startup here in Atlanta called QA Symphony, we had about $1 million in revenue when I joined, and we grew it to 20 million. So it was a great growth story, and that was over a 3-year period. But I really learned when I joined that company, if you're at a startup, you don't have a marketing budget, and you need to make as much noise as possible. So how do you do that with no money? And so I figured out all these kind of clever ways where you can growth hack your way to building a big brand, because people would look at our brand at QA Symphony and they'd say, man, you guys are big, right? Like you guys are, what are you, like $100 million company? I was like, no, we're like $1 million company and we're almost can't make payroll every month. It's that kind of thing.
Nick,
But,
did you sign up an appearance fee today?
Right.
I'll probably get a bill later. It'll probably come after the fact. I think it's funny because I think that tech era started that wave of that huge bombastic speak to make yourself sound bigger. This is an old radio station, man. We don't know that game. We're beholden to Nielsen ratings, but we're finally starting to get to the point where it's like, guys, this is not about the Nielsen ratings or what this says. It's the touch points. How many touch points do we have? The Braves radio, it's 5.3 million people that listen. Like, why are we not saying those numbers? Why are we worried about these little of what we're told we have to say? So I think that it's probably a lot harder in the tech space to do that now because it's so competitive. There's so many people screaming the loudest and with throwing the biggest numbers and the biggest videos out there. But I'm sure that experience shaped a lot of how you think about marketing and how you plan to grow companies because that's crazy growth. That's not easy to duplicate growth, but that's crazy growth.
Yeah, it's challenging. Yeah, and I mean it takes a lot of to grow that much without a big budget. I mean, part of it is you got to have the right product market fit.
Sure.
Right? I mean that's a huge thing. But once you have the product market fit, if you don't have the right marketing and the right sales strategy, sometimes it's all for naught. Like some companies can grow through just having a great product. Most can't.
Yeah.
And so that's where marketing really supercharges that growth.
Yeah, and I think that great product is something that has changed quickly too because what is a great product these days? It's hard because marketing has become so prevalent that like you can market anything as a great product and is it really a great product? So Joe, let's go over to you just to make sure we cover all our bases. So any updates in the past couple of months? What are you working on?
So I do a lot of work for Georgia State.
Wonderful.
So I'm getting ready for my
Go Panthers.
Go Panthers fall MBA class and having a lot of fun there. And I've got just very varied clients and everything in the nonprofit to manufacturing to CPG and just having tons of fun.
Yeah, I have to imagine the consulting side versus the corporate side that you get to pick your time and your projects, and it's probably a lot more fun when you look at it. So, anything stand out? So, talk about Georgia State a little. What do you got
Nick,
on the agenda?
One of the things I think we're going to introduce a new area when we come back from the break, and I think that will be kind of fun because we'll dive into what Joanne's doing and some special topics, and to tease a little bit what we call the forum segment. So with that, we'll be right back. You've been listening to the Marketing Madmen on Extra 106.3.
Tonight in Arkansas, there's a mother tucking in her daughter and turning off the light. A business owner is burning the midnight oil. An at-home dinner date is plating up possibility. And it's all happening under one roof. How? The power of a conversation, like the one John from Integrity Solutions had with First Horizon Bank about his vision for a sustainable mixed-use building. Now it's not just words, it's life. First Horizon Bank. Let's find a way. Go to firsthorizon.com/John. First Horizon Bank, member FDIC.
Now back to the Marketing Madmen on Extra 106.3 FM.
Welcome back to the Marketing Madmen on Extra 106.3. So before the break, we introduced Jeff and we talked with Joanne about some updates and what's going on in her world. So now we're going to start the forum. So this is the first time we're doing this, so be patient with us. And may God have mercy on our souls for starting this right here. So let's start with this. So Jeff, you came out with a book. Okay, we're going to say the title of that in a second because it's going to also be the first topic of conversation. But one of the things I've realized over the past couple of weeks, months, years, doing this meeting with people, a lot of people suck at marketing, man. I know there's not many other ways to say it. They have the wrong intention, they got the wrong ideas, and they're just, getting that degree in college makes you a marketer. And it doesn't quite work that way out there. So without further ado, our first topic of the forum is how to not suck at marketing. And Jeff, you are up, my man.
Well, I want to start with why I called the book How Not to Suck at Marketing, because when I told my mom what the title was, she was appalled. She's like, you can't have a book called How Not to Suck at Marketing. You can't use the word suck in a book. You're a dad. What's wrong with you? But I went to one of these marketing conferences here in Atlanta. It's called the Digital Summit. Yep. And the Digital Summit, you have like 3 tracks. And so I wanted to have the most people in my track, and you're up against like the guy doing social media and the guy doing SEO. And I said, well, what could be a title that will get a lot of people to my track? And I said, what's interesting right now? And I just came up with this idea of How Not to Suck at Marketing as a title for a presentation. And the presentation was really about all these lessons I'd learned about what to do if you're marketing program isn't working and how to get it working. And so the title is How Not to Suck at Marketing. I get to the room 15 minutes before the presentation, and it's packed. It's like standing room only, people sitting on the floor. And I thought it was for the session before me. And they're like, no, man, this is for your session. So it was like everyone came to the session on how not to suck at marketing. I said, I think I'm onto something here with this title. Like there's something that resonates with people around the challenges related to the function. And it's really no secret. Marketers generally have the shortest tenure in the C-suite. It's about 18 to 24 months. Marketers kind of come in and out of jobs really at all levels within a company. And if the marketing program isn't working, you can be sure that the CEO or the CFO are going to make some changes and find another marketer who can make it work. And so it's a tough career path in a lot of ways. It's fraught with peril, but it's also very fun and can be a great way to spend your career years. But in the book, I tried to really attack this issue I was seeing where a lot of my friends, peers, colleagues in marketing were getting fired or were getting pushed out. And I was like, what's going on here? And I even saw it in a company I was in. I was like, wow, we had some pretty talented people who just, they just left because they weren't getting it done and they saw the writing on the walls. So I thought, how do you not suck at marketing? How do you put yourself in a position within your company so you have really good credibility, you're helping grow the business, and you're moving forward, and you don't get caught in this death spiral of, you're spending money, it's not working, you get a bad reputation, everyone loses faith in you, and then you get pushed out. And so I go back to this experience I had at this company, PGI, and I walked in there, and they had basically, as the CEO said, he blew up the marketing department. So they had 50 people in marketing at the time, and they fired everybody in one day. And I was on kind of the cleanup crew to come in and to try to fix or rebuild this marketing department. And I got there and everything was just broken. The brand was a mess. The website was a disaster. We had no SEO, and we were in a very competitive space in web conferencing, video conferencing. And so really didn't have a lot of raw materials to work with when I came in. And I remember getting in there and I was like, okay, this is going to be a home run because everything's broken and I could fix it. I knew how to fix it. But a lot of the stuff we were trying to do is very hard. Like rebranding is hard. Rebuilding a website is hard. Redoing all your marketing automation is really hard.
Time consuming.
Yeah, man. And then like 6 months in, I kind of looked at what I'd accomplished. I mean, like, man, I am not doing anything. And I started getting worried. Is like, am I losing credibility? Are people looking at me and like, oh, we hired the wrong guy? And it really made me think, all right, what do I have to do to start putting runs on the board? And it's kind of one of the first principles I talk about in the book, which is having a quick win strategy, right? A lot of marketers will come into an organization and they'll take on these really, really big, hard projects first. I'm going to do all the messaging. We're going to redo all the messaging, and then we need to, take out HubSpot and put in Marketo, and we need to do all this advertising, really programmatic buying,
empire building,
like stuff that's really hard to do. And I remember I was looking around. I was like, what's a quick win here? And I realized the sales collateral just was horrible. Like all these the slicks that the sales guys were using at trade shows. I was like, well, maybe I could redo that. That's a good easy first thing. And we did it. Like I worked with our designer and we did it in like a week, and we had all new collateral done. And people were like, oh my gosh, this collateral is amazing. Like the sales guys are all excited. Like even the CEO came into my office. He's like, this stuff looks great, Jeff. Well done. I mean, it's easy stuff to do. It's a quick win. But what I realized is that you start to build some credibility. So the quick wins aren't always the most important thing for the business, but it builds the credibility. So then as you take on the bigger projects down the road, people have faith that you could actually do it.
You get a lot more rope.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I mean, the worst place to be is a marketer. I remember a colleague of mine, someone came up to me because she was taking on this very, very big account-based marketing program and trying to redo the sales marketing alignment. It was really hard. And the CEO actually came up to me one day and he's like, what's she doing all day? I mean, that's a really bad place when the CEO is asking someone like what a marketing leader is doing all day. You're in trouble then. So the quick win strategy is something. So whenever you come into an organization, or even if you've been in the organization for a while, it's always important to have your radar out, kind kind of track those areas where you can get a quick win, because it really does make a difference. Not everybody understands the intricacies of a marketing automation implementation, right?
Yeah.
Most people don't understand it. But everyone could see a piece of collateral.
Yeah.
Everyone could see a good blog post.
Yeah.
Everyone could see, oh, we did this podcast thing that's really cool.
Yeah, I have to imagine though, you have to be there some time to notice those things. Also, people expect that immediately. You got to get a feel for it before you can do that.
Yeah, a little bit, but generally, I think when you go into an organization, you should start to inventory
For sure.
the stuff out there. I find it's really useful to create kind of a report card.
Yeah.
Like, hey, our brand is a C, and I say, like, you rate the different parts of the marketing program and the different tactics, and then you rate the importance of those. Right. So maybe the brand is a C, but maybe brand's not super important in your category, right? Or it's good enough. But the website is a D, and your website is critical because that's how people learn about you. So where do you focus your time on the website, right?
Yeah.
So you have to kind of do some of those trade-offs. But really figuring out what are the most important things to focus on. And that's another point in how not to suck is focus.
Yeah.
Like, as marketers, we have a pretty wide canvas we can play in, right?
Yeah.
You can do the product marketing, you can do the brand marketing, you can do lead gen, you can do MarTech. There's a million different things you can do every day, but figuring out what are the most important things that are going to make the biggest impact on the business are critical. And I like to do this fill in the blanks exercise with my team, where we just say, all right, we are not growing the business faster because of blank, or we are losing deals because of blank. And when you do these very simple exercises, it kind of puts clarity around what you need to fix.
Sure.
Right.
Priority and focus. Yep.
What you need to fix. So focus is another one. Really, really important for marketers. Marketers are all sort of ADD.
What are you talking about? No way.
We love shiny objects. You know, we've never met a MarTech tool that we didn't want to buy or an
there's only
advertising.
9,000 of them now, right?
I love it. I love it. All right, so let's shoot over to Joanne over here. So we have a book written, so we have that standard set. So let's do the How to Not Suck at Marketing. What is your advice to people to not suck at it?
I think it is. It's going in, even before you go into a company, and understand their pain points. So through the interview process, it's where might I have a quick win? And then the first 90 days are so critical too, as far as understanding where you can come in as a marketer and help and grow. I think growth, though, is what every CEO, every board is looking for as far as what they expect from a marketer. So what are ways that you'll drive the business, grow the brand, are key. Relationships are so important. The CEOs are really looking to the marketers to not only know what's going on with the consumer, but drive that change and to rally the troops as far as their organization. So the marketer has a lot on their shoulders and a lot of expectations, but those would be some ways that I'd say. And Jeff is somebody I try to follow and emulate. He's been very successful at all the places he's been.
Well, I think it's not a simple task, but sometimes simplifying things does help. What do you think, Tripp?
I'll go at it first from anyone who's new, whether you're new into marketing, whether you're new into a job, which we talked about, and that would be get out and observe. All right, that's get out to your sales team, get out to your customer base, and by observe, the old adage of, the only thing that coming out of your mouth should end in a question, right? Watch, listen, smell, if you're in food or whatever. But I think it's really important. You were talking about when I got into Belgard, we had one brand. We had 12 regions. We had 17 catalogs. We each region had the ability to have a different product scope. Now, that also meant, though, they should not change the brand. But there were different opinions. But it was getting out to all those 12 regions and listening and asking and understanding to be able to get some wins and then bring it back. The second thing, and I'll target this to marketing leaders, and I think, Jeff, you are going there. It's once you've done that, once you've got those quick wins, I'm a huge believer in strategy first and not tactics. Sometimes people want to bring their focus or their ideas right away without going back to what you were saying is, we grow by X. What is the brand? What is your strategy? Make sure everyone, CEO, sales leader all agree with what that strategy is. And if you've gotten your credibility and you set up the strategy and you get that alignment, and Joanne probably knows this, all of a sudden you've given yourself probably a good 18 months of rope, which is the average tenure for a CMO. So those are my thoughts.
Yeah, love it. I think, in my head, one of the biggest problems is people to this day still look at marketing as an expense versus an investment. And it's most companies, most people you deal with, that's why the tenure is so short. And if you were going to look at marketing as an investment, what did investments take? They take time and they take diversity in the approach. And those principles should not be changed. And we're trying to change those principles. All right, look, that's a pretty good first start, man.
Yeah.
What do we got next on the list?
Investments. Right now, everyone's talking about investments in AI and Chat GPT. That is totally not my area, so I'll play moderator here. And Jeff, let's get. How are you using it? What do you see the future here?
Yeah. ChatGPT and AI is really interesting for marketers because it takes things that really require a lot of time and resource and makes it a lot easier. So one of the things you can do now, like we're doing a radio show and a podcast, you get the transcription of this and you feed it into ChatGPT and you ask it, can you do a summary of this, right? Can you give me 5 key takeaways from this podcast discussion? All right. Then you put it on your website and then you put it in a social post. Now, we've been doing that kind of thing for a long time, but you had a writer, you had someone who would have to listen back to the entire episode, really be thoughtful. And now you basically have a tool that can do it, and it's pretty good.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of amazing. You think about social media and social posts. You can go into ChatGPT right now and say, write me 10 social posts for my company in this tone and about these 5 topics, and you'll get a really good list. And you used to spend maybe hours writing and compiling and editing these social posts, and now you get them in like a second. So it's really amazing, I think, what you can do with these tools, and they're only going to get better as you put more inputs into them. So I'm really excited. I think it's kind of for marketers that really lean in on things like content, it's going to really supercharge your content. And so that's really, really exciting to me. I think we're dabbling right now. We're trying a lot of things, but it's probably the most disruptive tech that's at least in marketing that I've seen really since Google and SEO came out.
For sure.
Do you see it real quick as it sounds like augmenting but not replacing the different roles?
I think it could augment. It could also replace. Yeah. And so here's an example. If you're a small company, you probably don't have budget to hire people who are content writers to write your blog posts, but ChatGPT could write it for you. And maybe you have someone who just can edit it and clean it up. And so you really have an amazing tool at your disposal as a small company. I mean, that's a real challenge that small companies have had, is like, how do I get all this content for the website, and how do I create posts that people read? How do I establish myself as a thought leader? And now you have a tool that can really help you do a lot of that work. It's pretty amazing.
Yeah, no, it's a great point. Joanne, your thoughts around ChatGPT?
So it's obviously a very big topic in the marketing world and at universities. In some ways, universities are very concerned about it, especially for cheating. But as any technology, think about personal computers in the 80s, it's here to stay. And so how do we leverage it? How do we use it? I agree with Jeff. It will take out some of the drudgery of the tasks that marketers or companies have. So think about research or writing or even video content. ChatGPT can do a lot of that. I don't think it will replace all humans because it's human-led, and linguistics is a big part of it. But I think companies, smart companies, it's here to stay. So how do you adopt it and leverage it?
I like what Jeff said about, in many cases, using it as an editor. So you become the editor. You use it to write it, and then you still have a human essentially editing that last piece just to make sure there's everything touches base. So it's not, 100% out the door and then people go, what was that?
Yeah.
Right?
Well, tell us about your test with LinkedIn and how you used it for your post.
I mean, it was really interesting. I was playing around with prompts one day. I said, write 10 social posts from Jeff Perkins on LinkedIn. And I think I just wrote, that was the prompt. It was pretty simple. And it came back with 10 pretty good social posts. I was like kind of in my voice, kind of in the topics I would generally write about. And it was amazing. It just kind of right there in front of you. So if you're someone who is a social media manager, your job either has gotten a lot easier or maybe you're redundant. You have to figure out how to add value to it. But the other thing I was playing around with the other day is if you have a presentation you're doing, or I'm sorry, if you wrote like an ebook or a white paper, you can use some of these tools to say, convert this into a slide presentation. And it'll then convert it into a slide presentation. I mean, really amazing stuff. On the design side, there's lots of design tools out there that you can use that'll really accelerate the amount of design you could put out, incorporate your brand, your look and feel. It's really, really quite amazing. But there's some real risk to it as well.
Right.
I don't want to just like what I've seen some people do is they're putting their company's data in and say, hey, will you analyze the results of this campaign? But they're not protecting it because there's ways in ChatGPT you can basically make stuff not public, and then you can. But for the most part, the default is everything is out there.
Yeah.
And so if you're putting your data out there, other people potentially can get access to it. So you have to be very careful. I highly recommend before people start to put any company information out there, to really learn more about it and most companies are going to have to develop a policy around how to protect their company data. Because say you're going to have a big announcement as a company, and someone's writing the press release and they're using ChatGPT either to help them with editing or even to write it for them. That press release is now out there. And if someone else is looking for information about their company, that press release might come up or content might come up and they'd get some inside information before it's out.
I think that's the biggest issue that's going to come up is how you protect your own intellectual property and your own content. I think that people are looking at the tool like ChatGPT still needs inputs.
Right.
So when you have successful companies with successful brands with successful content, it can do all that stuff. You probably have robust content on LinkedIn already that can take and make that content. If you look at it from the inputs, right now, people should be talking about the inputs. Is how do they gather information? Do they have the things to put in place for ChatGPT to go out and do the outputs? So when you talk about intellectual property, when you talk about what they own, like I know the guy from Reddit is about to go and turn into a for-profit company because no, you can't just scour all this stuff for future else profit. We haven't made $1 off this, and now you're gonna have all these bots that are gonna come in, scour all this Reddit history to go make all this money. It doesn't work that way. So I'm also a little concerned that people are gonna wall off everything, and we're going to have a much more walled garden approach, which is the opposite of the open internet, which is what the Trade Desk and all these guys are going for, is this open internet. Those two things are going to come to a head because programmatic advertising and chat and AI are the two biggest disruptors. I would say the scope of programmatic advertising and what it's able to do with those machines and AI are going to bump into each other because one wants open internet and one wants to close it off so everyone just can't steal from each other. So I'm curious to see what's going to happen. I think we're months/years, it depends on the pace, who knows these days, away from that happening. But what I instruct our guys is, look, you're not there yet. We don't need to worry about outputs. Let's make sure we have strong inputs so when we do utilize this, it is organized and the outputs are the right way.
No, good. So we have a little under 3 minutes before the break. Joanne has always been a promoter and have a passion around swag and swag wars. So you each have 45 seconds. And I'm going to start with you, Joanne, since I know you're always out there talking about the swag wars. How do you win at swag wars?
I think you win by getting buzz, and you also win by getting Jeff to talk about it. So when I was at Honey Baked and Arby's, swag was a big part of the kind of viral brand building. And what you want to do with swag is you want to have good quality swag. It can't be cheap swag that you want to throw away. So I think winning...
Yeah, the hats that don't fit, the T-shirts that are always run a half size too small, right?
So winning at swag also is having whoever you give the swag to keep it and it be something that's high quality and people talk about. But I know when we started Swag Wars, it's hashtag Swag Wars. And so if something cool is out there, we'll LinkedIn or buzz about it, and that's how I think you win at Swag Wars.
All right, Jeff?
All right, I'll do a little show and tell.
Hey.
Our Greenlight Guru socks.
All right.
Socks are definitely a great swag item, especially if you're at trade shows. We'll get people lined up because they want the socks because they're cool and they have the logo on them. So that's a great thing. The other thing, I like things that have some utility. So I brought this. This is from Park Mobile. It's a dongle, right? But if you think about this, we would give these out at trade shows and they were like hotcakes. Everyone wanted one. And then they have these with them all the time. And if they're on their computer, they need to plug in, they have our brand right there all the time.
The thing I love on both of those is that you're talking about things that people find value, and it's not NASCAR. It's not the T-shirt that has huge logos and all that. The visibility is great, but it's really more about the utilization.
Right.
Right? So, Nick, what your view on Swag Wars?
Look, we've been doing it. It's radio. We've been doing it for years, giving stuff away. What the biggest thing for us was we have the ability to partner with clients to do it. So New Balance is an advertiser. Okay, well, why not make New Balance co-branded stuff? So for me, it's the ability to find partners that are going to invest in it with you so you can really bring top quality stuff. There's a difference between a $65 Nike pullover and a buy on Amazon for $15 pullover. I mean, they look different. They last differently. They don't pull. So I think high quality is the way to go, and I think it's utility.
Yeah, so I think maybe we'll lead off in segment 3 because Joanne's got some examples as well. So you've been listening to the Marketing Madmen on Extra 106.3. We'll be right back.
This morning in North Carolina, wheels are spinning. Determination is winning. A passion is now a thriving business, and it shows no signs of slowing down. How? The power of a conversation, like the one Clint Spiegel had with First Horizon Bank about starting a bike wheel manufacturing facility in Asheville. Now it's not just talk, it's rubber meets road. First Horizon Bank. Let's find a way. Go to firsthorizon.com/Clint. First Horizon Bank, member FDIC.
Now back to the Marketing Madmen on Extra 106.3 FM.
Welcome back to the Marketing Madmen on Extra 106.3. We're going to finish up our conversation on Swag Wars with this image, and we can't put the image over radio, but Joanne's sitting here hanging with a big smile on her face with her Giving Kitchen hat on. So again, good swag. What else is there? What do you got in the jacket?
Oh, I've got this awesome honey baked ham jacket, and this is from a rebrand that we did. And
I remember the rebrand. Yes,
yeah,
love it.
We're in the airport, and people
Love
would
it.
comment.
I don't care what anyone says. To this day, still nothing cooler than the old denim jacket.
Yeah.
It does not matter. It'll be timeless.
Well, and a lot of it, when we're talking about quality, is understanding your audience. And there's swag for different levels. Okay,
sure.
You got executives, you can't do the cheap thing, right? You got the mass audience. Okay, maybe it's a little different.
So I did a podcast for somebody, and he sent me a
Love it.
microphone.
Wow.
Love it. We're not quite there yet,
Yeah.
Trip. We're working to that level. Hopefully, this one will help us. And look, I think that's a good segue, especially with the Giving Kitchen hat. I think another thing that has changed a lot is charitable giving, community marketing, and these things all flow into each other, right? So even our radiothons, we used to be guaranteed to do 100, 160 grand for Leukemia Lymphoma Society Camp Twin Lakes. COVID screwed a lot of that up, right? First responders came right into the prominence, how important they are. That's where a lot of the giving went. So I think the space has changed. The ability to not be in person has changed. So let's talk. I think the last topic of the forum, we could talk a little bit about how to get back into community marketing, whether you're an organization or whether it's you leading the charitable giving. How do we get back into that conversation? Because there are plenty of institutions out there that still need a lot of help. And as we face economic turmoil and things get messy, they're not going to get as much money as they need. So, Joanne, let's start with you. And Giving Kitchen is a great example, but talk about how, as a marketer and as a company, you can use charitable giving and community giving to really benefit people.
I think as marketers, we have a superpower, and it is community, and it's a way to give back to the community, but it also motivates your associates and does great work for the community. So I've been everywhere I've worked, tried to integrate community and giving into the marketing role, and whether that's Arby's and No Kid Hungry and Honey Bake Feeding America, or personally working with companies like Covenant House or Giving Kitchen. It's a big part of who I am. And I'm going to kick it over to Jeff, because Jeff and I have done a few ride and raises over Peloton, and he's a big community advocate, not only professionally but personally?
Yeah, I think brands today, the expectations are higher than they have been. That you're not just a pure commerce company, you're not just about making money, but you're also connecting in some way to the community that you serve. And so at Park Mobile, we would always try to fundraise for, because we were in cities, that we worked with cities across the U.S., we would fundraise for the local food kitchens. Like that was a big deal. And so when you were using the Park Mobile app, you could donate to a food kitchen, and then we would match a portion of the donations. And listen, nobody loves paying for parking, but maybe you don't mind if you're actually helping a local charity in your community.
Yep.
And we just got great feedback on these kind of programs.
It localized it, and you had the logistics system built. That's one of the hardest things you had. That you're already with that touch point, with that credit card out. It's easy, which is the hardest part about charitable giving. I think sometimes they make it too complicated.
Yeah.
I'm all for it, but if I have to take out my credit card and mail it into a certain place and wait for a receipt and bounce back, like my day just doesn't allow that. It's unfortunate but true.
Yeah. And I think being authentic, which is kind of where you're both going to, and it either is a passion around where the organization is, or maybe a leader, or the team, or something that really ties in well with maybe the offering. And I can actually see the food kitchens and parking and inner city and things like that. You know, we got involved in the Tunnel to Towers organization and, you know, building the homes. And so we did the patios. Yeah. And it was not just we provided the product, we actually would provide the contractors, and our teams would start going. Our teams wanted to be there to help build these outdoor patios.
Yeah. And you think about it from a customer point of view or a consumer point of view, and the affinity you would get when you help, but also think about it from your employee point of view.
Yeah.
Employees want to belong to something. They want to feel that their company is doing some good in the world. And that's a really important part of this, to show that, hey, we're not just all about making money. That's our primary driver. That's why we wouldn't exist. But we're helping the communities we serve as well. And that help creates that halo for your brand. It creates more brand affinity for you.
Yeah, I think the last local is going to be even more important. I think that COVID has forced us into these little pockets of community, and people got closer with the people that are around. Everything's coming localized, nationalist, Zionist, whatever you want to call it, but the communities are shrinking. And I think that's why that local is that important. When you said not overall to a food kitchen, to your local food kitchen. And I think for us, that is our biggest thing is that there's a difference between working with the American Cancer Society and dealing with a local Atlanta-based company, and people feel, for whatever reason, more connected to, especially to see like Atlanta that's just booming in popularity. I think, you know, and again, not every situation presents it, but if you have the ability to localize it, I think that's where you get your most benefit.
In the last couple minutes, the advice to a company, breadth versus depth on that regards.
I've always been told for us as a public-facing media company, I tell people we get hit up about charity about all the time, and I say, look, honestly, our resources are better put to 3 big ones than 55 small ones. Just that's how it works. Just time, execution, and they should understand that, because ultimately we're all trying to do good. Most people do not, because most people have their own agendas, their own intentions. But I think you're better off picking 2 or 3 overarching high-end things than just allocating funds to whatever comes along. I think you'd be more effective that way.
Yeah, I would agree with that. At Park Mobile, we went all in with the Atlanta Children's Shelter. And we opened it up to employees to nominate charities, and then we voted on the one that was most meaningful, and we did a big donation. And we sent people to the shelter to read to the kids. We really got into the charity. It was kind of, we felt like it was kind of part of the company in a way. And when you do that, it becomes just so much more meaningful for the people involved in the company. It becomes more meaningful for the charity and the relationship between the company and the charity.
And scalable. It's easier to duplicate that year after year as opposed to going to 50 people. Like, how do you pick the next year? I think it's hard for people to understand, but I agree. That's incredibly important.
Yeah, agree. I agree with depth and having it align with the company and what you do, and having the employees engaged.
I think getting the employees to be engaged is critical. And one of the things Jeff said that I liked was, you know, you went to the employees. So maybe you had 3. Maybe one was a passion from you or some of the other leadership. But it sounds like you surveyed the group, and where did the interest within the overall organization? And maybe there was a charity that you got involved with that wasn't at the top of your list, but your employees wanted to be there.
That's exactly it. And because the employees wanted to be involved in it, the engagement in the overall program was just much higher, as opposed to, well, Jeff likes this charity and this is Jeff's pet charity and everyone has to support it. No, we actually had the employees pick. And that's why, we just had such a tight relationship with this charity, so much engagement. I mean, we would every week you'd have probably 5 to 10 employees going over to read to kids.
It's great.
Being part of other events that they had.
That makes good social media and good content also,
yeah,
full
absolutely.
circle. Yeah. I think don't be afraid of fun. One of the things, we just finished a golf tournament where we raised a lot of money. It was 83 and sunny in June in Lake Lanier. That never happens.
Yes.
And we almost doubled our take off the mulligans because everybody just had such a good time. And I know you're doing good, but that doesn't mean it can't be fun and beneficial and networking. So I think a lot of these things are going to start play together more, and you're going to see blurring of the lines of what's community, what's charity, what's event, what's networking. And I think that's a good thing.
Oh, absolutely. So, and I think today was a good thing. So our very first Marketing Madmen Forum. So thanks, Joanne Harold of Harold Growth Consulting. We're looking forward to doing this, hopefully on about a monthly basis. And our first guest on the forum, Jeff Perkins of Greenlight Guru. Thanks so much for sharing your wisdom. And also, you do have a book. If people want to find out about how not to suck at marketing, where do they go?
They can go to hownottosuckatmarketing.com and learn about the book, or hit me up on LinkedIn. I'm very active there, so come connect with me.
Well, thanks for sharing your wisdom. And as always, Nick, enjoyed it. And you've been listening to the Marketing Madmen on Extra 106.3. We'll see you next week.
Easy breezy.
Right.
Thanks, guys.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Fast. That one went
Yeah.
by fast.
It did go by fast.
That one went by fast.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that's I skipped the brand marketing because they were running out of time, and that one we could do a whole segment on. So the chat, I know the swag wars are always fun too.
They
so,
are. Yeah.
Yeah, it's so hard to balance between a radio show and a podcast because there's such different beasts. Like, you have to, David has been listening to.
This morning in the Atlanta airport, no one's missing a meal on Mac Wilburn's watch. With 11 restaurants to serve passengers, he's got dining for every destination. And it all started when Mac talked with First Horizon Bank about opening a franchise in the airport. Now it's open for business and cleared for takeoff. First Horizon Bank. Let's find a way. Go to firsthorizon.com/Mac. First Horizon Bank, member FDIC.